Leonardo Ferretti had worked with Natalia Volkov for 2 years and never truly saw her until the night she reached across his desk in a black dress that made her blonde hair look like spun gold. She handed him documents with hands that trembled slightly, and when her sleeve rode up under the glow of his desk lamp, he saw the purple finger mark circling her wrist like a bracelet of violence. In that moment, with the Manhattan skyline glittering behind them and the city sleeping below, everything he thought he knew about his brilliant translator shattered. Where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. And if you want exclusive access to bonus content and early releases, click that join button to become a member. The meeting had run late, as they always did when dealing with the Russian families out of Brighton Beach. Leo's penthouse office on the Upper East Side was quiet, except for the hum of the city 20 floors below and the soft shuffle of papers as Natalia translated the final contracts. It was nearly midnight, and she should have gone home hours ago, but she never complained about the late nights. She never complained about anything. That should have been his first clue that something was wrong. Leo leaned back in his chair, watching her work. At 35, he had been running the Ferretti family operations for 6 years, ever since his father had stepped down and handed him the keys to an empire built on shipping, real estate, and carefully cultivated connections that spanned from New York to Moscow. He was young for a boss, but he had earned his position through ruthlessness and strategic brilliance that even the old guard respected. Tonight, he wore his usual black turtleneck, the kind that had become his signature, paired with perfectly tailored pants. He looked more like a tech mogul than a mafia boss, which was exactly the point. Legitimate fronts required legitimate appearances. Natalia sat across from him, her long blonde hair falling forward as she concentrated on the documents. She was 28, beautiful in that understated way that made men look twice, not because she tried, but because she existed. Her green eyes were sharp, catching nuances in language that could make or break a negotiation. She wore a fitted black dress tonight, professional but elegant, the kind of thing she wore to important meetings. The dress hugged her figure, and Leo tried very hard not to notice the way it moved when she shifted in her chair. He had been trying very hard not to notice a lot of things about Natalia for 2 years. She was his employee, his translator, the woman who made his international dealings possible because she spoke Russian, Italian, French, English, and passable Mandarin. She was also, he had realized sometime in the past year, the only person in his life whose company he genuinely enjoyed. Not because she was useful, though she was. Not because she was beautiful, though she was that too. But because she was brilliant and careful, and saw through his bullshit in a way that most people were too afraid to do. She finished the last page and looked up, catching him watching her. Everything is in order. The Russians agreed to your terms. No changes to the contract language. Good. Leo's voice was low, roughened by too many late nights and too much whiskey. You did excellent work tonight, Natalia. That negotiation could have gone badly without you. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Just doing my job. You do it exceptionally well. Thank you, Mr. Ferretti. She started gathering papers, stacking them neatly, and that was when it happened. She reached across the desk to hand him the final contract, and her sleeve rode up her forearm, revealing not just the bruises on her wrist but older marks, yellowing with age, that wrapped around her pale skin like evidence of something terrible. Leo's hand shot out and caught her wrist gently, stopping her mid-motion. What is this? Natalia froze, her green eyes going wide with something that looked like panic. It's nothing. It's not nothing. Leo kept his voice soft, but rage was building in his chest, hot and furious. He turned her wrist carefully, examining the bruises under the warm light of his desk lamp. Fresh purple marks overlapped with older yellow-green ones. These were not accidental. These were not from bumping into furniture or any of the other lies he suspected she was about to tell. These were finger marks. Someone had grabbed her hard enough to leave their signature in her skin. Who did this to you? Mr. Ferretti, please. Leo, Call me Leo. He looked up at her face, saw the fear there, the desperate need to pull away and hide. But he did not let go of her wrist. Not yet. Tell me who hurt you. I have to go. She pulled her arm back, and this time he let her, watching as she yanked her sleeve down and grabbed her purse with shaking hands. It's late. My husband will be worried. Husband? The word hit Leo like a physical blow. He knew she was married, had known from the day he hired her, seen the gold band on her finger, heard her mention my husband in passing. But he had never met the man, never even heard his name. Natalia kept her personal life completely separate from work, which Leo had respected because he kept his personal life equally compartmentalized. Now he wished he had asked more questions. Your husband did that? Leo stood slowly, his 6'2" frame unfolding from the chair. He kept his movements careful, non-threatening, because Natalia looked like a deer about to bolt. Natalia, look at me. Did your husband hurt you? She was already at the door, her hand on the handle. Good night, Mr. Ferretti. I'll see you next week for the shipment meeting. Then she was gone, the door closing softly behind her, leaving Leo alone in his office with rage burning through his veins and the image of those bruises seared into his mind. He pulled out his phone and called his second-in-command, a man named Vincent, who had been with the family since Leo's father's time. Vincent answered on the second ring, his voice gravel-rough and alert despite the late hour. Boss? I need information on someone. Natalia Volkov's husband. Name, address, everything. There was a pause. The translator? Yes. You want to tell me why? Because I saw bruises on her wrist that looked like someone grabbed her hard enough to leave marks. Leo's voice was flat, controlled, but Vincent knew him well enough to hear the violence underneath. I want to know who her husband is and everything about him. By morning. Consider it done. Leo hung up and stood at the window, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. Somewhere out there, Natalia was going home to a man who hurt her. The thought made him want to put his fist through the glass. Instead, he poured himself a drink and waited for morning. The information arrived via encrypted email at 6 a.m. Leo had not slept, had spent the night thinking about bruises and the way Natalia's eyes had filled with fear when he caught her wrist. He opened the file and started reading. Rico Mancini, 32 years old. Married to Natalia Volkov 2 years ago in a small ceremony in Queens. He worked sporadically in construction, had a history of bar fights and drunk and disorderly charges, and 2 ex-girlfriends who had filed restraining orders that mysteriously disappeared before making it to court. There were hospital records for Natalia, a broken wrist last year, bruised ribs 6 months ago, countless ER visits for accidents that painted a very clear picture. Leo read the file 3 times, his rage building with each pass. Then he called Vincent again. Did you read the file you sent me? I did. Then you know what I'm going to ask. You want him gone. It was not a question. Not yet. First, I want to talk to Natalia. She needs to understand what's happening and why. But yes, Vincent. Eventually, I want Rico Mancini to disappear. Quietly. Permanently. No body, no trace. Can you handle that? You know I can. But boss, maybe you should think about this. Getting involved in an employee's personal life. She's not just an employee. Leo cut him off. And I've already thought about it. This is happening. I just need to do it right. He hung up before Vincent could argue further and checked his watch. 7 a.m. Too early to call Natalia, but he sent her a text anyway. Need you at the office today. 10 a.m. Important business matter. Her response came 5 minutes later. I'll be there. Leo spent the next 3 hours preparing what he was going to say. How he was going to convince a woman who was clearly trapped in an abusive marriage that she could trust him. That he would keep her safe. that leaving was possible. He had negotiated with rival families, talked his way out of potential wars, brokered deals worth millions. But this felt infinitely more important and infinitely more terrifying because he was not negotiating for territory or profit. He was negotiating for Natalia's life. She arrived exactly at 10, dressed in gray slacks and a cream blouse, her blonde hair pulled back in a professional bun. She looked composed, but Leo noticed the makeup on her cheekbone that was slightly too heavy, covering what he suspected was another bruise. She also wore long sleeves despite the warm October day. Mr. Ferretti. She set her bag down and took her usual seat across from his desk. What did you need to discuss? Leo did not sit. Instead, he came around the desk and leaned against it, keeping some distance between them but making it clear this was not a normal business meeting. I had your husband investigated last night. All the color drained from Natalia's face. You what? Rico Mancini, construction worker when he works, which isn't often. History of violence. 2 restraining orders that mysteriously disappeared. Hospital records for you that read like a manual on domestic abuse. Leo kept his voice level, factual. I know he hurts you, Natalia. I know he's been hurting you for most of your marriage. And I want to help you get out. She stood abruptly, her hand shaking. You had no right to investigate my personal life. You're right, I didn't. But I saw those bruises and I couldn't let it go. He took a step closer, carefully. How long has he been hitting you? That's none of your business. Natalia. No. Her voice cracked. You don't understand. You can't understand. This is my marriage, my life, my problem to deal with. It became my business the moment I saw what he's doing to you. You work for me. You're under my protection, whether you realize it or not. Leo softened his voice. I can help you. I have resources you can't imagine. Safe houses, lawyers, security, whatever you need to get away from him. Natalia laughed, but it sounded broken. You think I haven't tried to leave? You think I'm just staying because I want to? Then why? Leo asked gently. Help me understand. She was quiet for a long moment, and when she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because he's right. I'm nothing without him. I'm too weak to survive on my own. Where would I go? What would I do? I'm just a translator. I'm nobody. Leo felt something crack in his chest. Natalia, look at me. She did, reluctantly, her green eyes swimming with unshed tears. You are the most brilliant person I have ever worked with. You speak 5 languages fluently. You negotiate million-dollar deals for me. You catch nuances that native speakers miss. You are not just a translator. You're exceptional. And you are not weak. You're surviving something that would break most people. That's not weakness. That's strength. A tear slipped down her cheek. He says I'm too emotional. Too needy. That no one else would put up with me. That I'm lucky he stays even when I mess things up. He's lying to you. That's what abusers do. They convince you that you need them so you won't leave. But you don't need him, Natalia. You never did. You don't understand. Her voice was desperate now. He can be so good when he's not angry. He loves me. He tells me all the time. And maybe if I just tried harder, if I stopped provoking him. Stop. Leo's voice was firm but not harsh. Listen to me very carefully. Nothing you do justifies violence. Nothing. If he loved you, he wouldn't hurt you. Real love doesn't leave bruises. Real love doesn't make you afraid. Natalia was crying openly now, her professional composure completely shattered. I don't know what to do. I'm so tired, Leo. I'm so tired of being afraid. Leo wanted to pull her into his arms, wanted to promise her that everything would be okay, that he would fix this. But he knew that would be crossing a line she might not be ready for. Instead, he kept his distance, and spoke with absolute certainty. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to come stay at my apartment. I have security, space, everything you need. You'll be safe there. And then we're going to figure out the next steps. Divorce lawyers, restraining orders, whatever it takes to get you free of him legally. He'll come looking for me. Let him. He'll have to go through me and my security first. And I promise you, Natalia, he won't get through." Leo's voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. "I protect what's mine, and you're under my protection now." She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something. "Why are you doing this? Why do you care?" "Because I'm half in love with you and have been for months. Because the thought of him touching you makes me want to commit murder. Because you deserve so much better than what you've been given." But Leo could not say any of that. Not yet. Not when she was this vulnerable. "Because you work for me and I don't tolerate anyone hurting my people. And because you deserve to feel safe. That's reason enough." Natalia wiped her tears with shaking hands. "I don't have anywhere else to go." "Then you'll come with me. Now, we'll get your things from your apartment while Rico is at work, and then you're staying at my place. No arguments." She nodded slowly, and Leo saw the exact moment she made the decision to trust him. It was terrifying and brave, and he respected the hell out of her for it. They took Leo's car, a black SUV with tinted windows driven by one of his men, to the apartment Natalia shared with Rico in Queens. It was a fourth-floor walk-up in a neighborhood that had seen better days. Leo sent 2 of his security guys up with Natalia while he waited in the car, keeping watch. She was gone for 20 minutes, emerging with 2 suitcases and a backpack, her face pale but determined. "That's everything I care about," she said as they loaded her bags into the trunk. Leo's apartment, calling it an apartment was underselling it significantly, occupied the entire top floor of a building he owned on the Upper East Side. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. The living space was decorated in clean modern lines with expensive furniture, and it had 3 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. Leo had never needed the extra space. He lived alone, had always lived alone, kept his personal life carefully separate from his work and from romantic entanglements that could become complications. But now, walking Natalia through the apartment and showing her to the guest room that would be hers, Leo realized he did not mind the company. In fact, he wanted her here. Wanted to know she was safe behind his security system and guards. Wanted to see her in the morning and hear her moving around his space. That was probably something he should examine more carefully. But later. Right now, Natalia needed to feel secure. "This is beautiful," she said, looking around the guest room with its king-sized bed and view of the city. "Leo, this is too much." "It's not enough." He set her suitcases down inside the door. "Get settled. Rest if you need to. I have some calls to make, but I'll be in my office if you need anything." "Thank you." She looked at him with something like wonder. "I don't know why you're being so kind to me, but thank you." Leo wanted to tell her that kindness had nothing to do with it, that his motivations were far more complicated and selfish than simple charity. But instead, he just nodded and left her alone to decompress. In his office, he called Vincent. "She's here, at my apartment. The husband's going to notice she's gone. I'm counting on it. I want him to come looking. But Vincent, when he does, I want your guys ready. I don't want him getting within 100 feet of this building." "Understood. You want us to handle him permanently now?" "Not yet. I need to talk to Natalia first. Make sure she's ready for what that means. But soon. Very soon." Leo spent the rest of the afternoon working, making calls, reviewing contracts. But his mind kept wandering to Natalia in the guest room, wondering if she was okay, if she was having second thoughts, if she was scared. Around 6 p.m., he emerged from his office to find her in the kitchen, staring at his refrigerator with a bemused expression. "You have nothing in here except whiskey, sparkling water, and what I think might be moldy takeout." Leo almost smiled. I don't cook. Clearly. She closed the fridge and turned to face him. Let me make dinner. I need to do something with my hands or I'm going to lose my mind. You don't have to. Please, let me feel useful. So Leo ordered groceries delivered, and Natalia cooked while he sat at the kitchen island and watched. She made pasta from scratch, her hands moving with practiced efficiency, and Leo realized he was seeing a side of her he had never seen before. Relaxed, comfortable, domestic. She hummed while she worked, and when she caught him watching, she smiled. What? Nothing. Just enjoying watching someone actually use my kitchen. They ate at his dining table with its view of the city lights, and for the first time in years, Leo's apartment felt less like a sterile bachelor pad and more like a home. They talked about easy things, movies they liked, books they had read, places they wanted to travel. Natalia told him about growing up with Russian immigrant parents in Brooklyn, about learning languages because she loved how they opened up different worlds. Leo told her about inheriting his father's business too young, about the pressure of living up to a legacy while trying to modernize operations. It was the most normal evening Leo had experienced in years, and he found himself not wanting it to end. After dinner, they moved to the living room, and Natalia curled up on his couch with a glass of wine, her shoes kicked off, looking more at ease than he had ever seen her. The view of Central Park stretched out behind her, and Leo thought she looked like she belonged here, in his space, in his life. Can I ask you something? She said after a while. Anything. Why did you really investigate Rico? Was it just because you saw the bruises, or is there more to it? Leo considered his answer carefully. The bruises were what made me act. But if I'm being honest, I've been worried about you for a while. You're always professional, always competent. But there's this sadness in your eyes that I couldn't figure out. And you never talk about your personal life. Never mention being happy. I told myself it wasn't my business. But when I saw those bruises, I couldn't ignore it anymore. You're observant. It's how I've stayed alive this long. Natalia was quiet for a moment, swirling her wine. Rico wasn't always like this. When we met 3 years ago, he was charming, attentive. He made me feel special, like I was the only person in the world who mattered. We got married fast, maybe too fast. And for the first few months, it was good. What changed? I'm not sure. He lost his job, started drinking more, got jealous of my work, of the time I spent translating. He said I cared more about my job than about him. We'd fight, and he'd apologize, promise to do better. Then it happened the first time. He pushed me during an argument and I fell. He was so sorry afterward. Cried, begged me to forgive him, said it would never happen again. She laughed bitterly. It happened again 2 weeks later, and then it just kept happening. Why didn't you leave? Leo asked gently. Because he convinced me I couldn't, that I was too weak, too dependent, too flawed. He'd tell me every day how lucky I was that he put up with me, how no one else would want me, how I provoked his anger and made him do things he didn't want to do. After a while, I started believing him. I started thinking maybe I was the problem. Maybe if I just tried harder, was better, didn't make him angry. She trailed off. It sounds stupid now, saying it out loud. It's not stupid. It's what abusers do. They break you down systematically until you don't trust your own judgment anymore. It's psychological manipulation, and it's just as damaging as the physical violence. Natalia looked at him with surprise. You understand this stuff. I've seen it before. Not in my personal life, but in my work. Power, control, manipulation. Those are tools people use to get what they want. Rico uses them on you. The difference is, you're getting out. You're here. That took incredible strength. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Terrified and strong aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, doing something even though you're terrified is the definition of courage. She smiled at him, and something warm unfurled in Leo's chest. He wanted to kiss her, wanted to pull her close and promise he would never let anyone hurt her again. But it was too soon. She needed time to heal, to remember who she was without Rico's voice in her head. So instead, Leo just smiled back and changed the subject, keeping things light until Natalia yawned and announced she was going to bed. "Sleep well," Leo said. "And Natalia, you're safe here, I promise." "I believe you." 3 days later, Rico showed up. Leo's security called him at midnight to report that Rico Mancini was in the lobby, drunk and belligerent, demanding to see his wife. Leo was out of bed in seconds, pulling on pants and a shirt, his mind sharp despite being woken from sleep. "Keep him in the lobby. Do not let him up. I'm coming down." He checked on Natalia first, finding her awake in her room, sitting on the bed with her knees pulled to her chest, clearly having heard the commotion from the security call. "He's here," she whispered. "He's in the lobby. He's not getting up here. I'm going to handle this." "Leo, he's dangerous when he's drunk. So am I." Leo's voice was cold. "Stay here. Lock the door. Don't come out until I come get you." He took the elevator down to the lobby, where he found Rico held between two of his security guys. The man was shorter than Leo, maybe 5'9", with the kind of build that came from manual labor, but had started going soft around the middle. His eyes were bloodshot, his breath reeking of cheap beer, and there was a wild, desperate look on his face that made him dangerous and pathetic in equal measure. "Where is she?" Rico slurred. "Where's my wife? I know she's here. Someone saw her come in with you." Leo approached slowly, hands in his pockets, projecting calm authority. "Your wife left you. She's not going back. Accept it and move on. She's my wife. She doesn't get to just leave. Who the fuck are you to keep her from me? The man telling you to walk away while you still can." Leo's voice dropped to something lethal. "You're not seeing Natalia tonight, or any other night. She's under my protection now. If you try to come back here, if you try to contact her, if you do anything other than accept that your marriage is over, you will regret it. Am I clear?" Rico tried to lunge forward, but the security guys held him easily. "I'll kill you. I'll kill her. She's mine." Leo stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Rico could hear. "Listen very carefully. I know about the bruises. I know about the hospital visits. I know you've been beating her for 2 years, and if you ever, and I mean ever, touch her again, they will never find your body. I'm not a jealous husband, Rico. I'm a man with resources and connections you can't imagine. Test me and find out what I'm capable of." Something in Leo's eyes must have communicated the seriousness of the threat, because Rico's bravado crumbled. "She's my wife," he said again, but weakly now. "Not for much longer. Her lawyer will be contacting you about divorce papers. Sign them. Move on with your life, because if you don't, I'll end it for you." Leo gestured to his men, who dragged Rico out of the building and dumped him on the sidewalk outside. Leo watched through the glass doors until Rico stumbled away into the night, then turned and went back upstairs. He found Natalia in the living room, wrapped in a blanket, her face pale. "Is he gone?" "He's gone." Leo sat down next to her, keeping a careful distance. "Are you okay?" "I heard him screaming. He sounded so angry." She was shaking. "What if he comes back? What if he—" "He won't. I made it very clear what would happen if he tried." Leo reached over and took her hand gently. "You're safe, Natalia. I meant what I said. He's not getting near you." She looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. "You threatened him." "I did more than threaten him. I promised him consequences if he didn't back off, and I keep my promises." "You'd really—" She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. "To protect you?" "Yes." Without hesitation. Leo squeezed her hand. I know what I am, Natalia. I know the things I've done, the violence I'm capable of. But I direct it at people who deserve it. Rico deserves it. And if he gives me a reason, I won't hesitate. She should have been horrified, should have pulled away, called him a monster, demanded to leave. Instead, she leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder, and whispered, "Thank you." Leo wrapped his arm around her, holding her while she shook with adrenaline and relief, and knew that he was in trouble. Because this had stopped being about protecting an employee. This had become personal in a way that complicated everything. He was falling for her, had probably been falling for her since the first day she walked into his office 2 years ago, with her perfect Russian accent and sharp green eyes. And now that she was here, in his home, in his arms, he did not know if he could ever let her go. The next morning, Leo made a call he had been planning since the moment he saw Natalia's bruises. "Vincent, it's time." "You want me to handle Rico Mancini?" "Yes." "Make it clean. Make it look like an accident or a disappearance. I don't want any blowback on Natalia. Consider it done. You want to know the details?" "No. I just want to know when it's finished." Leo hung up and went to make coffee, finding Natalia already in the kitchen, dressed in jeans and one of his old Columbia sweatshirts that she must have borrowed. It was too big on her, the sleeves hanging past her hands, and she looked impossibly young and vulnerable. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning. How did you sleep?" "Better than I expected. Your bed is comfortable." She poured herself coffee and added milk, moving around his kitchen like she belonged there. "What happens now?" "Now you take time to heal. See a therapist who specializes in abuse recovery. Figure out who you are without Rico's voice in your head." Leo leaned against the counter. "And you keep working for me if you want. Nothing has to change professionally." "Everything's already changed." She looked at him over her coffee mug. "I can't go back to pretending we just have a professional relationship. Not after everything." "No," Leo agreed. "I suppose we can't." They stood there in the morning light, the city waking up outside, and something shifted between them. It was too soon for anything to happen. Natalia needed time and space to recover. But the awareness was there now, acknowledged and real. "Leo?" "Yes." "Why are you really doing all this? And please don't say it's just because I work for you. I'm not stupid. This is more than that." Leo set down his coffee and looked at her directly. "You want the truth?" "Please." "Because I care about you. Have cared about you for longer than is probably appropriate given our professional relationship. I respect your intelligence, admire your strength, and enjoy your company more than anyone else in my life. And when I saw those bruises, when I realized someone was hurting you, I couldn't stand it. Not you. Never you." Natalia's eyes filled with tears. "Leo, you don't have to say anything. You don't owe me anything. I'm helping you because you deserve help, regardless of how I feel. But you asked for the truth, so there it is." She set down her coffee and crossed the kitchen to where he stood. Then, slowly, giving him time to pull away if he wanted, she reached up and cupped his face with both hands. "I care about you too. Have for a long time. But I didn't think I was allowed to. I was married, and you were my boss, and it seemed impossible. It's still complicated. I know, but I don't want to ignore it anymore. I don't want to pretend." She stroked her thumb across his cheekbone. "When I'm ready, when I've healed and figured myself out, can we try? Can we see what this might be?" Leo covered her hands with his own. "We can take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." She smiled, and it was the first real smile he had seen from her since she arrived. "Good." The call came 3 days later. Vincent's voice was matter of fact. "It's done. Rico Mancini's car was found at the docks. No body, but evidence suggests he went into the water. Police are calling it a likely suicide. His blood alcohol level was off the charts. Any connection to us? None. Clean as it gets. Good work. Leo hung up and found Natalia in the living room, reading a book he had recommended. She looked up when he entered, and somehow, without him saying anything, she knew. He's gone, isn't he? He disappeared. Police think he's dead. Probably drowned himself at the docks. Natalia was quiet for a long moment, her face unreadable. Then she said, "I should feel guilty. A good person would feel guilty." "You're not guilty of anything. You didn't ask for this." "No, but I'm not sad either. I'm relieved." "Does that make me a bad person?" Leo sat down next to her. "It makes you human. He terrorized you for 2 years. You don't owe him grief." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm free. Really, truly free." "Yes, you are." They sat there together while the sun set over Central Park, and Leo held her while she processed everything. The relief, the complicated emotions, the beginning of healing. And he promised himself that he would give her all the time she needed to become whole again, before he asked for anything more. The weeks turned into months. Natalia started seeing a therapist who specialized in domestic abuse recovery. She continued working for Leo, translating documents and attending meetings, but she also started taking on other clients, building her own freelance business. She was reclaiming her independence, her confidence, her sense of self-worth. Leo watched her transform from the scared, uncertain woman who had arrived at his apartment into someone stronger, surer, more fully herself. She stayed in his apartment, though they had long since stopped pretending it was temporary. She had her own room, but spent most evenings in the living room with him, talking about their days, watching movies, cooking together. They had fallen into an easy domesticity that felt natural and right. And slowly, carefully, the relationship between them evolved. It started with small touches. Her hand on his arm when she laughed at something he said, his fingers brushing hair back from her face, their legs touching when they sat on the couch. Then it progressed to longer touches, more deliberate ones. Leo holding her hand while they walked through Central Park. Natalia leaning into him while they watched a movie. His arm around her shoulders, her head on his chest. They were dancing around the obvious attraction, both aware of it, both waiting for the right moment. That moment came on a cold December evening, 3 months after Natalia had moved in. They were in the kitchen, cooking dinner together, when Natalia suddenly stopped chopping vegetables and looked at him. "Leo?" He turned from the stove. "Yes?" "I'm ready." He did not have to ask what she meant. He could see it in her eyes, in the way she held herself, in the certainty in her voice. She was ready. Ready to move forward. Ready for more. "Are you sure?" he asked anyway, because this was too important to rush. "I'm sure. I've been sure for weeks. I know who I am now. I know my own strength. And I know what I want." She crossed the kitchen and stood in front of him, close enough that he could smell her perfume, see the gold flecks in her green eyes. "I want you, Leo. I want to see what we could be together. If you still want that too." "I've never stopped wanting it." His voice was rough with honesty. "But Natalia, you need to understand something. What I feel for you, it's not simple. It's not casual. If we do this, I'm all in. Completely. Possessively. I've spent months watching you heal and staying at a distance, but if you give me permission to cross that line, I won't be able to go back. You'll be mine, and I protect what's mine. I know. I want that. I want you exactly as you are. Dangerous and protective and possessive. I want all of it." Leo cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. "Then have dinner with me tomorrow night. A real date. Let me court you properly." She smiled. "We live together. Isn't that a little backwards? I don't care. I want to do this right." "Okay, yes. Take me on a date. Leo Ferretti." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose, but not her mouth. Not yet. He wanted to wait, wanted that first real kiss to be perfect. Tomorrow night. Wear something beautiful. I'm taking you somewhere special. The restaurant was in Tribeca, small and exclusive, the kind of place that did not advertise because it did not need to. Leo knew the owner, had called in a favor for a private table with a view of the city. Natalia arrived looking stunning, in a deep green dress that matched her eyes, her blonde hair falling in loose waves down her back. Every man in the restaurant turned to look at her, and Leo felt a surge of possessive pride. Mine. Something in him growled. She's mine. They sat across from each other with champagne and the best food New York had to offer, and they talked. About everything. About their childhoods and their dreams and their fears. About what they wanted from life. About what being together might look like. I'm never leaving the family business, Leo said, wanting to be clear. This is who I am, what I do. It's dangerous, it's complicated, and it's not going anywhere. If you're with me, you're accepting that. I know, and I'm okay with it. I've worked for you long enough to understand your world. It doesn't scare me. It should scare you a little. Maybe, but you scare me less than my own husband did. At least with you, I know the violence is directed outward, at people who deserve it. You'd never hurt me. Never, Leo promised. I'd die first. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, the December wind cold but not unbearable. Leo gave her his coat and kept his arm around her shoulders, and when they stopped to look at the Brooklyn Bridge lit up against the night sky, Natalia turned in his arms and looked up at him. Kiss me, she said. Are you sure? I've been sure for 3 months. I'm just waiting for you to catch up. Leo smiled and lowered his head, giving her time to change her mind, to pull away. But she did not. She rose on her toes and met him halfway, and when their lips finally touched, it was like everything clicked into place. The kiss was gentle at first, exploratory, learning the taste and feel of each other. Then it deepened, turned hungry, months of tension and wanting and careful distance finally breaking. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Natalia smiled up at him. Took you long enough. I wanted it to be perfect. It was. She pulled him down for another kiss, and Leo knew he was completely, irrevocably lost. They went back to his apartment, their apartment, and this time when they kissed, there was nothing holding them back. Leo backed Natalia toward his bedroom, his hands in her hair, her fingers gripping his shirt. They undressed each other slowly, reverently, and when Leo laid her down on his bed, he made sure to ask at every step if she was okay, if this was what she wanted. I'm sure, she kept saying. I want this. I want you. So Leo made love to her with all the patience and care he had, showing her with his body what he had been too afraid to say with words, that she was precious to him, that she mattered, that he would protect her and cherish her for as long as she let him. And when they finally came together, moving in perfect sync, it felt like more than just physical pleasure. It felt like coming home. Afterward, wrapped in his arms with her head on his chest, Natalia traced the scars on his ribs and said, I love you. Leo's heart stopped. What? I love you? I've been falling for you since you first saw those bruises and demanded to know who hurt me. I love your protective instincts and your intelligence, and the way you see me as more than I saw myself. I love you, Leo. He pulled her closer, buried his face in her hair, and felt something unlock in his chest. I love you too, so much it terrifies me. Don't be terrified. Just be here with me. Always. They spent the rest of the winter building their relationship, learning each other, falling deeper. Natalia continued to heal and grow, her confidence blooming under Leo's consistent support and affection. She started taking on bigger translation projects, built up her client base, became known as one of the best in the business. She was brilliant and successful, and finally saw herself the way Leo had always seen her, as exceptional. By spring, they had been together officially for 4 months, and Leo knew what he wanted. He had known, really, since that first night when she had told him she loved him. But he wanted to wait until she was completely healed, until she had fully reclaimed herself, before he asked. On a warm May evening, he took her back to the place where they had had their first date, the restaurant in Tribeca with the city view. They had champagne and dinner, and when dessert came, Leo reached across the table and took her hand. "Natalia, I need to tell you something." She looked up from her crème brûlée, her green eyes curious. "What is it?" "2 years ago you walked into my office as my translator. Smart, competent, professional. I respected you from day one. But somewhere along the way, respect turned into admiration. Admiration turned into affection. And affection turned into love. You've become the most important person in my life. The person I think about when I wake up and when I go to sleep. The person I want to share everything with." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, setting it on the table between them. Natalia's eyes went wide. "You came to me broken, convinced you were weak, but I saw your strength from the beginning. I watched you rebuild yourself, reclaim your power, become the incredible woman you always were, but had forgotten. And I want to spend the rest of my life reminding you how exceptional you are, how loved you are, how valued and cherished and absolutely irreplaceable." He opened the box, revealing a platinum ring with an emerald center stone surrounded by diamonds. "Marry me, Natalia. Be my wife, my partner, my everything. Let me spend every day proving I'm worthy of you." Tears were streaming down her face. "Leo, I know it's fast. I know we've only been together officially for a few months. But I've loved you for 2 years, and I'm not going to waste any more time. I want you. Forever. If you'll have me." "Yes." She was laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, of course, yes. I love you so much." Leo slipped the ring on her finger, then came around the table to kiss her, not caring that they were in public, that people were watching. She was his now, officially, and he wanted the whole world to know. They were married in July in a small ceremony at a botanical garden in Brooklyn, surrounded by Natalia's family and Leo's closest associates. She wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers, and when she walked down the aisle toward him, Leo thought she had never looked more beautiful. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, his promising to protect and cherish her, to always see her strength even when she could not, to be her safe place always. Hers promising to trust him, to stand beside him, to love him fearlessly and completely. At the reception, Natalia's father pulled Leo aside. "Take care of my daughter. She's been through too much already." "I will. For the rest of my life, I will." They honeymooned in Italy, spending 2 weeks in Tuscany at a villa Leo rented, drinking wine and making love and talking about their future. They wanted children eventually, wanted to build a life together that was both connected to Leo's business and separate from it. Natalia would continue translating, Leo would continue running the family operations, and they would create something beautiful together. When they returned to New York, to the apartment that was now fully theirs, no more pretending it was temporary, no more separate rooms. Natalia stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park and said, "I never thought I'd have this. A life I chose, a partner who sees me. Happiness that doesn't come with fear attached." Leo came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "You deserve all of it and more. I know that now. Took me a while to believe it, but I know it now." She turned in his arms and looked up at him. Thank you for seeing my strength when I couldn't. Thank you for giving me space to heal. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for trusting me. For letting me in. For being brave enough to choose yourself. She kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. I didn't just choose myself. I chose us. I chose this life we're building. And I'd choose it again. Every time. They stood there in the golden evening light, two people who had found each other in the middle of violence and fear and built something beautiful from the ruins. Natalia had reclaimed her strength, remembered her brilliance, learned to trust again. Leo had found someone who saw past the dangerous boss to the man underneath, who loved him completely and without reservation. A year later, they were still translating contracts late at night in his office, the Manhattan skyline glittering behind them. But now when Natalia reached across the desk to hand him documents, there were no bruises on her wrists, just a platinum wedding band that caught the light, and a smile on her face that said she was exactly where she belonged. Have you ever witnessed someone find the strength to leave? Have you seen love grow from protection and trust? Where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to our channel for more tales of healing, redemption, and unexpected romance. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. And if you want exclusive bonus content, extended scenes, and early access to our stories, consider joining our membership program. Your support helps us create more content like this. Thank you for being part of our community.